According to an article put out by The Truth About Guns, the White House is currently taking steps to reduce the amount of commercially available 5.56 by 45 NATO M855 or SS-109 green tip ammunition by up to 30%. And the way they're doing this is by telling Lake City Ammunition, which is a plant operated by Winchester, that they'll no longer be able to sell their excessive military loadings on the civilian market. And they're specifically targeting 5.56, M855 or SS-109, which is the green tip ammunition, which is steel core, 62 grain projectiles that a lot of people stockpile and store up just in case of an emergency. Especially if you're running an AR-15 as one of your primary weapons platforms, it's probably an ammunition type that you have quite a bit of. And yes, this is safe and empty and all of the things. So, now, what we need to consider is that, of course, this is being discussed as backdoor gun control in many ways because they're targeting a very popular cartridge and they're also not getting their way when it comes to the gun control they're trying to accomplish. So they're going to do things like this to try to keep civilians being unable to acquire the ammunition that they need. But there's something else we need to discuss, and there's some more to this than just that, at least in my opinion, especially from a preparedness standpoint. This is why we need to pay attention to these types of moves, okay? Understand that right now there is the possibility of global conflict around the world, and we all know that there's a conflict over in Eastern Europe right now that's consuming a lot of ammunition. And in fact, Euromaidan Press, which is Ukrainian news, put out an article on June 14th saying that there's a race against time. Ukraine runs out of ammunition, calls for MLRS systems and artillery, and that the US is willing to provide everything needed. And that should be an indicator to you as to why some of these things are happening. We all know that even though this event over in Ukraine has been going on for over 3 months now, they probably were well stocked to begin with. They've been given lots and lots of ammunition. Even Ammo Inc. actually gave them, I think, up to 1 million rounds of ammunition just from their one company. And yet they're coming back and saying, we're running out of ammo. We need more. So what do you think militaries around the world are doing right now in response to the idea that this global conflict is growing some legs and has more and more of a possibility of existing every single day? Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that during World War II, ammo was in short supply, and there were ammo shortages on the front lines due to supply line issues and the fact that US production of ammunition at the time was actually insufficient to meet the needs of what they needed overseas. So this is another thing to keep in mind when it comes to looking at history and saying, okay, what happened during a global conflict last time and what did militaries around the world need in the sense of ammunition? And you can see that they're always going to need more no matter how much they already have, right? And now, why this might escalate and why this could last a long time and require a lot of ammunition has some different factors to it. But on May 26th, the Center for Strategic and International Studies reported that there will be more crises like Ukraine in the future that will pull in great powers and spark additional escalation. And that the longer the crisis in Ukraine lasts, or any similar crisis to the Ukrainian crisis would last, the less likely it will be continued to affect only one state. It will not be confined in one singular area, and it will pull other countries into the fray. So with all of that in mind, and with everything happening in the world right now, do I think that this is some type of backdoor gun control where they're trying to maliciously remove you and I's ability to have the ammunition that we want in order to be better prepared? Of course, I think there is some of that to it. But I also do think that we have to keep in mind that governments around the world are preparing for the worst when it comes to this global escalation that we're witnessing right now. And the idea that small arms wouldn't be necessary is asinine because they are always necessary. And right now in Ukraine, even though they're probably not using a lot of 5.56 NATO M855 ammunition, they're probably running 5.45 by 39 or 7.62 by 39, they're still going to need more of it. And 5.56 M855 is extremely prevalent around militaries all over the planet, and it's something that's going to be in high demand and eventually short supply if things don't get better. So do I expect this information to spark some kind of ammo panic buying and more shortages? Of course I do, because that's what always happens during this whole situation. But I've been warning you guys about ammo shortages for over a couple years now, and if you haven't been paying attention and you haven't gotten the ammo you need, I don't know what to tell you at this point, but make sure you do what you can for what you need and take care of yourself, because this is all stuff that's going to keep happening the longer this whole situation overseas goes on for, and the longer we have an administration in office right now that likes to try to target your ability to have what you need to be able to defend yourself during any kind of an emergency situation. So, Wanted to bring this to your attention. Wanted you to understand that, yes, backdoor gun control does exist, and this is some of the ways that they try to implement it. But I think that there are other factors involved here that are almost more concerning in some ways, based on the fact that I think our military, as well as many others, are really starting to gear up for what they think is going to be a very difficult conflict here in the future. And both of those things are very negative for both you and I, and it's stuff we need to pay attention to. So leave comments below if you have anything else to add to this, or if you have other ideas as to why some of this is happening. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prep.